I would like to call the Instruction Committee for the Frederick County School Board in order. The date is August the 12th, 2024, and the time is about 4:32. We have an agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Oh, I second it. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Do I need to call him in since we started the meeting, or
No, sir. We can just
Okay.
keep moving forward.
do I let him stay here, or do I knock him on the head, or what do I do? All right. I will now pass over to Dr. Hummer to lead the meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bell. I really appreciate that. So we have a couple items for you all this evening that we will be discussing. The first bullet is the only action item that we are asking you all to move to the full board for approval. It is new policy 333, 334, and 335, and thus amending policy 620, which we'll talk about here in a second. We're also going to provide you all with an update to our summer school programs at both elementary and the secondary level. So we're very excited of providing that information to you all about what we had experienced this summer, the successes, as well as some other items that we would like to pursue for next summer, as well as the structure of the current support that we have available for our students and their well-being. So we have some structures that we want to share with you all, as well as some other ideas and recommendations that we're looking forward to support our students and their overall well-being. So with that, I'll now hand it over to Mrs. Knight and her team. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Hummer. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Thank you, Dr. Hummer, and good afternoon, members of the committee and Mr. Chair. As Dr. Hummer mentioned, we have about 4 items that we'd like to present to you this afternoon. Seeing that Miss Jordan is still coming, would you like us to move policy to the end? Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, with that said, we're going to move forward. We have some exciting summer programming to share with you today. And so at this time, I'm going to invite Mrs. Swager up to talk about the Elementary Academy and our young people's learning experience. Thank you, Ms. Swager.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Hummer. I am going to share with you some information this evening about our elementary summer academies. So we had 3 sites this year. They were at Indian Hollow Elementary School, Jordan Springs Elementary School, and Bass Hoover Elementary School. And up to 60 students were able to attend at each site, and we had 5 different grade level camps at each of our sites. We had a June session that ran for 2 weeks in June, and we had a July session that ran for 2 weeks in July in order to try to give our parents some options because of vacations and that sort of thing. And so in total, they could have attended 4 weeks, but some students attended only for one or the other. So the purpose of our Elementary Summer Academy is for students to have opportunities to reconnect and stay engaged with learning over the summer. It is not a required program. It's not something that every student has to take if they've not been successful at a certain grade level. It's basically a way to reinforce and apply foundational skills in a camp-like setting that would be fun for students to attend and engage in over the summer months. Students are selected by school staff, and the only criteria we have is that they be in need in some fashion. And so some of the different ways that schools identify students are through students who have received or been receiving intervention in reading or math, students who need strengthened connections to the school community, or students who are considered at risk in other ways. So sometimes it's at risk because of a situation in their home life. Sometimes it's at risk because of other academic or behavioral factors. So it just depends on how the school has determined which students are at risk or in need. In our June session, we had 116 children who were served, and in our July session, we had 119 children who were served. Some of those students were the same students, so some attended both, and it was probably about 85 to 90 students in each of those sessions that were the same from one session to the next. So with our Summer Academy, our learning experiences are designed to integrate foundational reading and math skills, incorporate investigation, research, or problem solving, promote application of skills through projects and themes, give students choice, and tap into their creativity, and promote collaboration. And so those are the goals that teachers plan experiences around. And you can see here some of the kind of titles that were outlining what those experiences were for many of our students. It was different in different camps during different weeks, so they had different themes that they had. But some of the different experiences within the camps included Potato Olympics, city planning, food and nutrition, and coding and robotics. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those. So in the camps where they were working on Olympics, first of all, with Olympics being such a big event this summer, that was something exciting for students anyway, and something that the students were tapped into. And so students were designing different events for the Olympics. They were competing for different prizes within those events that they were designing. And then for the Potato Olympics, they actually designed different events, and they then had potato athletes that they put through the courses or the different events, and then they had winners from the potatoes who were able to complete all of the events in the Olympics and scored the highest. So that was based on just the different activities that the potatoes had to go through. You can see the map there where they're being pulled across the gym. The potatoes were actually with them as they were having their journeys in the races and that sort of thing. So the students had a good time with that one. They had mini metric Olympics, and they had different tasks within the Olympics where they had to use teamwork and collaboration to promote collaboration across the different grade levels. For city planning, they created cities where some of the teams, so they had like an entire group that was working on the city, and some of the teams were creating the buildings, some of the teams were creating services, they did career studies, some of the teams were mapping out the roads using coding and robotics, and then they had visits from different folks in the community. I know that the K-9 police officer came and state police came to visit with the students one day. They also had the therapy dogs come, and they read with therapy dogs on another day. So that was part of their city planning. Within a unit on nutrition, they talked about healthy amusement park food, and so they were designing different rides in the amusement park. They had roller coasters that they were creating. They were creating different activities for the amusement park, and then they were coming up with healthy amusement park food. So they looked at amusement park food that's not very healthy and what made that not healthy, and then tried to improve upon it with their study in nutrition. And so as part of that, they were trying to make a better amusement park for kids. So that basically was how we were trying to excite and engage students in our summer academies in the elementary level this summer. And it was a successful program. We had a lot of students who were there. The ones who were coming showed up every day. We didn't have a lot of missed attendance for students who, unless we had some illness, but for students who did come, they were there and they participated and they were excited. And so our coordinators and our teachers all commented about what a great experience it was. We were going to have one of our coordinators here tonight. Two of our coordinators are attending the back to school events with their own children, and one of them was going to be here, and she had a death in the family and couldn't make it tonight. So we appreciate her planning for this, but she wasn't able to make it to talk with you about the program. So unless there are questions about the Elementary Summer Academy, I will turn it back over to Ms. Knight.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions?
Mr.
Comments?
Chair.
Yes.
First, I want to applaud you guys on the innovative ways you guys are keeping students involved with education during the summer. With our struggling SOL scores, though, however, this is, like I said, a great way to keep them involved. But are we actually drilling down to the individual student needs? Say Johnny's having trouble in math. It's great that we're putting this on, but is there that value where they're getting that math instruction or science instruction where they're able to come out and we'll see improved scores out of this?
So we don't have a remedial program in place where there's like a pre-test and a post-test, and they're specifically targeting skills that were identified through those pre-test and post-test type formats. We do have information that the teachers get about the students that are identified since they are at risk. If they've been receiving intervention for math or reading or for other areas, then the teachers do get that information so that they can gear their instruction toward the needs that the students would be exhibiting. And then as the academy unfolds, then they're doing kind of in the moment type intervention for when they see a need that a student is not understanding something or not able to follow through with a task, then they're kind of providing that on-site kind of intervention or targeted support at that point in time. With a 2-week program, it's difficult to say that we would be able to address every need and fill every gap. So our goal is to provide kind of an overall basic foundation of reteaching with those foundational skills, because these are students that we know already have identified needs. And so we're kind of reinforcing the things that are the basics that they would need in order to strengthen that as they go into the next grade level.
I understand. I just would like to be able to see some kind of measurable stat or something where we can give feedback on, if this is actually helping the students, or if it's, something where, instead of taking that teacher's time and the student's time, while it looks fun, but I'd like to see measurable outcomes out of it. That's all. Thank you.
Understood.
Any other questions or comments? I actually have a comment. I just want to bring some additional information from our discussion prior to this meeting. That the students, correct me if I'm wrong, were fed breakfast for this program, but not lunch because it was a half-day program.
Correct.
And the elementary school did not go on field trips due to budget constraints, is that correct?
It was timing and budget.
Timing and budget.
Yes, in order to try to do the transportation for all of the students, and within the 2-week windows that we had, there were a lot of constraints on what that would mean from the budget perspective.
Okay.
Especially because they're only there from 8:30 to 12. So.
Yeah, field trips is something that I'd love to see for the elementary age students in the future. I think it's beneficial to them to be able to get out and about, especially given this group of students that are in need may not have the ability to go out and about like other students or children can. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this academy is set up to be more like a summer camp than a summer school. Is that correct?
Yes, our goal is to make it more like a summer camp that has embedded skills and strategies into it.
Gotcha. And Dr. Hummer, lastly, is there a plan to do a traditional style of summer school in the future for our district?
So very similar to what Mr. Atkins was mentioning earlier, I think there's room for that return on investment for everything that we have implementing here in Frederick County Public Schools, summer school and summer learning being one of them. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We are going to talk about that a little bit more for the secondaries as well, especially when we get to high school with those credit recovery programs that we definitely have the students that need that support, but we did not have the space at J to do that. So we're having conversations of expanding that. But we definitely need to do a better job of what that return on investment is. And as Mr. Atkins mentioned, the measurement of this, because yes, it is a good program, but we are investing dollars in it and time, and we have to be able to show that return on investment. Not to belabor that point, but I agree, and that's something we're definitely going to be looking into.
Thank you, Dr. Hummer. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Swagger, and I couldn't agree more. We are definitely looking for ways to expand our summer school services, so thank you. And at this time, I'd like to invite up Dr. Myers to talk about our secondary summer experiences, which is kind of a 3-part learning
Members of the board,
experience.
Dr. Hummer, thank you for allowing us to share with you about the secondary learning opportunities from the summer. We had 3 of them: the Middle School Summer Academy that was held at Ayler Middle School. We had Charting Your Pathways that was offered at J. Howard, and then the high school traditional summer school that was offered. All of our coordinators for these various programs are here tonight, and I'm going to have them share with you the details of the program, and we will all answer any questions you might have in regard to it. So I'm going to turn it over at this time to the Middle School Summer Academy coordinators. And here they come.
I think I know these people.
Hi, I'm Bridget Bush. I was a coordinator at Middle School Summer Academy.
Hello, Jess Allen, coordinator.
Philip Carpenter, coordinator.
And I'm Mallory Simon. I was also a coordinator. And we'd like to start by thanking you for inviting us to share our Summer Academy experience. Our purpose, can you go back to the first slide? Our purpose of Summer Academy was to provide students with the time and space to practice their academic content, as well as our Frederick County Public Schools Portrait of a Graduate competencies, and to prepare them for the upcoming school year. This summer, we had about 87 6th through 8th graders and about 18 teachers from all middle schools in our district. And we really focused on student-directed learning or self-determined learning, where students had an option to have autonomy and make choices in what they learn and how they learn. We focused on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are a set of goals that aim to transform our world globally as well as locally within our own community, and they really impact our students. Our students were able to research and learn about their own community and ways in which they can actually help when they get older. We had our teachers design and facilitate engaging, high-interest lessons and activities for our students, and our teachers got to choose about 3 goals from our Sustainable Development Goal lists that they thought would reach students the best. And then from there, our students got to choose one that they were the most interested or passionate about. And our students conducted further research. They read articles, they read books, they watched videos, whatever their learning style was. And their teachers were there to help guide them and facilitate that for them and provide feedback along the way. Based on that, once all of the learning was done, but it's never really done, learning is a process, the students created a product because we only had a 3-week program. Our students created a product to show their learning, and they presented their product at our showcase at the very end of Summer Academy. And thank you to everybody who attended our showcase and supported our students. We're very proud of them. At the showcase, students presented their learning. They were able to describe what they learned, explain what they learned, and it was just a very special moment for the students, a very special experience. And we're very proud of everything that they have accomplished. They created awesome products. They created models of sustainable cities. They created sculptures of endangered animals. They wrote books, graphic novels. They got to choose what they wanted to create, and they were able to take all of the skills that they learned and weave that in through with their content that they learned: history, math, science, English, reading, writing. This experience was, yes, it was an academic experience. It was also a way for students to get connected to middle school. Some of these the 6th graders, it was brand new for them. First time in a middle school experience, or a middle school setting. So Summer Academy was a great way for students to connect to school, make friends, and just get started and ready for the upcoming school year. I'm going to pass it off to Phil, who will talk a little bit more about what they learned.
So I'm just going to speak on the field trips that we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to do, and some of the guest speakers that we had, and the great community partnerships that we were lucky enough to have. One of the sustainable development goals was life on land. 6th and 7th grade got into this, and they were able to take a field trip to Blue Ridge Wildlife Center, where they saw snakes, turtles, foxes, raptors, and they were able to ask questions and kind of get hands-on experience with that. We also had a guest speaker come in. That was Frederick Water, when they were talking about clean water and sanitation, another one of the sustainable development goals, where they were talking about water pollution and how we can conserve water as a community. Then we also had responsible consumption and production was another one of the developmental goals. And for this, our students had the opportunity to actually go to the landfill, see what happens to our waste, and go to C2 management. And a field trip there to see how actually what hard drives and things like that got recycled, some more of the machine and technology, how those things get recycled. And then lastly, they were talking about affordable and clean energy. We had Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative come in. They brought a bucket truck, as you can see up there. The kids love seeing that in action. And they also were able to speak about renewable energy, like solar power and windmills. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Allen here.
So to wrap it up, community and team building, this was huge aspect for us for middle school. We started off the first day with a full group pep rally. I run pep rallies at Ayler currently, so this is kind of my wheelhouse. So I put together like 4 or 5 different activities that all of our students were involved in. They came down, we played some tug of war, they battled it out. We did some hula hoop relays, that's on the bottom left hand, where they worked in teams to create a hula hoop little igloo, and then they had to race back and forth. The teachers got involved, we got involved, everybody was building that group. You know, it was great. And everybody worked together. They were smiling. They were laughing. We had music going. So that was our pep rally. We had one at the end of the academy, too, on the last day, where we kind of made it a musical chairs pep rally, where they battled it out playing musical chairs. And let me tell you, whew, they get competitive with musical chairs. So that was cool. So we started out, you know, building that camaraderie, and then we ended the same way. So Spirit Week, we held Spirit Week the second week of the academy, and each day we had a different theme. We had Olympic legends where they wore red, white, and blue. That was awesome. That's one of the pictures there. Rep your middle school, so they wore their middle school colors or their shirt if they had one. Your future is bright, so what they might want to be when they grow up, if they knew or if they had any ideas. And then we gave them little tokens of souvenirs, as you could say, each day, so that we had leis, we had sunglasses, things like that for them. So they had a really good time. We had a lot of participation with Spirit Week, and they looked forward to each day because they'd talk about it. Oh, look what we're going to do tomorrow. And we had a little flyer for them to follow, so they were really excited. Unfortunately, due to the temperatures one of the weeks, I think it was the last week, yeah, it was 105 degrees outside. We had to reschedule a couple things around. So I got a hold of Stevens City Fire Department, and they were able to come out and set up the fire truck for them. And they sprayed, I forget how many 500 gallons of water on the students for about 30 minutes. And they played under it, and they had a good time. So that was on our second to last day. So, you know, it was just working together, getting to know people that they might not have known, coming out of their shell, and just working together. So they had a blast, and we really enjoyed it too. So, yeah, so we just wanted them to get excited about middle school, and I think we accomplished that. So
Thank you.
that's it. Yeah.
Do we have any questions or comments?
Oh, yes, I do.
All right, Mallory.
Please.
Go first.
Do it as a team.
Support.
I'm looking through these national, what's it called? United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and I'm a little concerned that we're bringing some of this stuff into our public schools. Sustainable cities, isn't that the same as 15-minute cities, where we're trying to move everybody into cities and get everybody out of the rural communities?
No, not at all. And what we, in regard to the sustainable goals, we intentionally choose goals that are related to our community, that are in the way of water conservation, our infrastructure, things of that. We stay clear of anything that might be controversial. We certainly don't advocate for anything that would say, move out of your community and go to a different community. That's not the nature or the spirit of the sustainable goals. But we are very intentional about what areas we cover and what areas we don't. So that's it. That is why we go down and we say, okay, here are 3 goals that we can work on. And those 3 goals that you see are age appropriate. The activities we include are appropriate for the age and also content-wise. So no, we don't get into any of that area. And I respect and understand what you're saying, Mr. Sturdivant, but no, and I'm happy to share with you the curriculum. Everything we're doing is in the vein of Frederick County Public Schools and how we go about educating our children. It's very genuine.
My comment, the United Nations has no love for this country. I get a little antsy when we start taking things from the United Nations and bringing it into our public schools. That's me personally.
It's their, it's a sector of it. If you looked at the work of A.J. Giuliani, you'll see that his influence, he's an educator, he's right down the middle with that. And so it's a lot of his work in there, but he teamed up with the United Nations in the sense of the sustainability. how do we teach our children about our earth and preserving it and all of the influences. A lot of it relates to careers and when we're talking about taking kids to landfills and we're telling them how's your hard drive, what do you do with it when it's old, and what's the responsible thing to do. That's the intent of this. So I respect where you're coming from. I will tell you that we take this very seriously, and we would not put our kids in any kind of predicament like you're concerned potentially about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I think it's awesome. I share a lot of sentiments about the United Nations with him, but the overall content I think is awesome. You got local firefighters coming in, working with the kids, getting them excited. I know over at Ayler, when I came for the basketball game last year, you guys put on a great show. It's amazing, and everybody's pumped up. It takes on its own life over there. Before you even brought up the igloo with the hula hoops, I was like looking at structural stability and stuff. Such a nerd like that, but going out and seeing the wildlife and things like that. I think that does have a great benefit as far as science, biology. Going to see to another local community partner. I think that's a neat place that a lot of people aren't exposed to, right? There's a lot of different elements and stuff that you look at when you're taking apart a computer, whether it's gold, zinc, all the other precious metals in there, lithium, and seeing how that's responsibly taken apart and put into different bins and sent off to wherever it goes to get processed for new life. I think all that stuff's great, and I think it does build a lot within the community. Not only are we reaching out to those community partners and our other folks out there, like firefighters and police officers, but it's showing, that Frederick County Public Schools really wants to invest in these kids' futures and, bring everything right back here. So I appreciate what you guys have done, and hats off to you, and I look forward to seeing what goes on next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're not done yet.
Oh, no, okay.
Thank you so much for coming up and presenting. There's one question that I have, and this may be to Ms. Knight or Dr. Hummer. Dr. Knight? Ms. Knight? Okay. And Dr. Hummer, is there a way, or actually there is a way, could we perhaps attach the SOLs to the work that they've done in the summer camps? Because I think it would be certainly very easy to do, or actually this may be a question for you, or a statement, to add those because it sounds like math, science, social studies all were covered, as well as physical education, art even to a degree. So I think if you've done that already, you have.
Yes. We are teachers. We were so fortunate and really lucky to have them. They considered all of the SOLs and all of their content, and they chose the goals based on what students were learning, especially in science, going into the grade.
Sure.
So our 8th grade teachers took some of the standards and topics that they were going to focus on, and they weaved in lessons based on that to help meet those SOLs and also just to engage the students and prepare them.
Thank you.
Life Sciences is a 7th grade course, so you see
Yes.
that with the clean water. That was part of the 7th grade curriculum there. So as Mallory shared, it's all woven in, but it's intentional. They have 4 planning sessions that last many hours leading up to this, and that's one of their jobs, is to crosswalk. We'd be happy to share with you.
I had assumed as much, but I'm wondering if perhaps even including them in the literature that you send out to the parents, not that every parent's going to look it up, but even a link to the S standards, and that way they can see the value in the program itself, and that would go for the elementary as well as the high school.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
And I do have a list of how at least the science standards correlated to
Sweet.
each of the goals that they did.
Thank
I'll
you.
be happy to share that with you guys.
All right,
And then
cool.
everything is also reading and writing based as well, and speaking. So it connects in so many different avenues.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next group, they are going to present, Mr. Thompson's going to lead this group. This is the Charting Your Pathways, which is a brand-new program from this past summer, and then the high school summer credit recovery program. So, Mr. Thompson?
So I'm super excited to share with you, board members, Chairman, Dr. Hummer, about two programs that we ran at Dow J. Howard.
1 second, I'm sorry. Can you lift the microphone up so that it goes in there just for our viewers
Yep.
at home? Thank you.
There we go. Is that better?
Is that better?
Yep. Okay. Super excited to share two programs that we had this summer at Dow J. One is Charting Pathways, which was really focused on exposure to CTE pathways and contents. We noticed a gap in terms of we have some middle school opportunities, and then ninth grade we really don't have a lot of opportunities at Dow J. And so an opportunity to show kids what they can look forward to and what they can enroll in. But just a brief exposure. What you'll find is typically 3 different exposures over a 3-week period, and I'll let Ms. French share that. And then the second part is our high school summer school credit recovery program that we have some data to show you that we're super excited about. I don't want to spoil some of the slides, but really, really excited about some of the results that we had in our summer school program.
Good evening, Dr. Hummer, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I'm so excited to talk to you about our program, Charting Pathways Summer Academy, because it really was born out of a gap area that principals identified last summer. I went around when my position was created a year ago. I went around and I met with teams of administrators and at high school and middle school, and they all said that we were lacking a specific way to engage middle school students before they get to high school, not only to educate them on the possible pathways that they might take and the programs that we offer and the organizations that are available for them to develop important skills with, but also a way to engage them more deeply in middle school, right? To figure out like what are they interested in and how can we like facilitate that. So this idea of a summer academy was born out of that. We spent a year planning for 140 rising 8th and 9th graders to walk through the doors at Dow J. Howard for a 3-week academy. And this academy was composed of about 19 faculty that led really hands-on, deep dive learning into our CTE program areas. So a rising 8th grader could choose top choices like auto body, auto tech, criminal justice, cybersecurity, nursing like nurse aid or pharmacy tech, and a number of others. And they could explore that for a week. And then they also would explore, one of the 3 weeks would be an opportunity to explore another area that maybe they weren't familiar with. And so when Ben and I were planning this academy, one of the things that Mr. Thompson was very adamant about was he wanted the kids not only to have hands-on like experiences, right? He wanted them to get out and interact with industry and professional experts, the leaders in our community who are future, will be the future workforce for. And so we had field trips into the community. We capped enrollment in each of the classes at 10 students or less. And they were able to meet, like go and visit places and really get a hands-on insight from the leaders of the community. The other thing that we had were guest speakers that came in. American Woodmark came in. Several other places, businesses represented in our community were able to come in and engage with students. And so it was a really fabulous first-time event for 140 kids. We provided breakfast and lunch and transportation because we piggybacked with our high school summer school program. So there was a lot of coordinating going on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any questions or comments?
I'm just super excited that you guys are getting that spark going in middle school. I know that you talked about the lag earlier, between middle school and then when students are actually enrolling over there at Dow J for CTE courses, mostly their junior, senior years. And I don't know what more we could do, but I see, what was it? Monday? Was it? Or was it? What day was it? We were over here at Jameswood Middle School.
For the tailgate Tuesday.
Yeah, that was awesome. You
yes.
guys had the cards set out there, for
Yeah, you
for
visited our
parents.
booth, yeah.
For parents and students to come up and look at, to kind of spark that interest as well. So I think you guys are doing a lot. What else can we do? It's something that we have a dying workforce. Everybody thinks getting a 4-year degree is the end all be all, which for some people it might be, but I know other people choose different career paths, and being able to expose those students to that and give them those options is very critical. Instead of having people that don't want to work out in the communities, and then finding out maybe that they don't like this career path early on, and then they
That
can
be
move
just
on to
as
something
valuable,
else.
right.
Exactly.
But exposure is the key before high school.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that they, even into elementary school, so that they start to connect, what they want and that pathway that Frederick County Public Schools can present to them.
100%, and I'm just excited that you guys are still carrying the torch and pushing forward in new and innovative ways every time. So thank you so much for your work.
Appreciate the comments, and I think what I know Dr. Hummer has plans in which we can expand CTE offerings, and very much something important. So the biggest thing for us right now, I think Dr. Hummer would agree, not to put words, but is space. And having the space available for the kids that already want to take it and have shown interest. So
To be fair, though, you have the land, you just don't have the physical space.
that's true.
Get a masonry program and just start building on.
That's right. Construction program, I can see it now. Any other comments or questions?
Next topic.
Thank you so very much.
All right, next up is going to be some comments about our summer school program.
Right. I'm not an English major.
Good evening. So the last thing that we're going to present is while this was also going on, we had in our building the high school summer school. So this was really designed around a need that we saw as in Frederick County Public Schools, that we didn't have something for our kids who in person who were failing their classes or for their SOLs. So we identified that need and we opened it up to all of our high school students, and they either had failed the course and the SOL. And then it was the 3 weeks in June, the same time the Charting Pathways is going on, and then I'll let Mr. Barber talk about our enrollment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Hummer, thank you very much for the opportunity. Lower that. For the opportunity to present to you this evening. The first thing I would like to say that when we got the go-ahead for this program to move forward, we did have a very short turnaround to get it all accomplished. And I would be remiss if I did not thank individuals from our finance department, instruction, transportation, and food nutrition that were able to come together as a team to truly make this become a full reality. I would like to start off just by giving you some historical data. If you look, you will see that this program has just finished its second go-around. And when we had the time to register students and get the program up and running, we had a grand total of 51 students. I would like to say from the onset that all 51 of those students had failed a class such as Algebra 1, Geometry, English 11, World History, etc. And so those students coming to our program from our 3 high schools, of that 51 number, all students having failed the class, 42 of them passed. That's an 82% pass rate, and only 9 of those students unfortunately failed. So what we saw in looking at that data is, was there a need? Absolutely. So at a second year, being able to offer more classes, making it more robust, to work with our 3 schools, and to also come up with a plan to enroll these students with a longer time frame, we expected that it might double. As you can see, it did not. It more than tripled. And of those 158, 133 of those students passed, which gives us an 84% pass rate, and unfortunately 25 students did not pass. But what it shows is that from our 3 high schools with our students, that this program is definitely needed for Frederick County Public Schools, and that next year, if we're able to offer it again, that we would not only see our numbers increase, but it would also allow students to take classes in the summer to pass, so that in the regular school year, rather than having to take a class to repeat, they can take that class during the summer, which would allow more freedom and flexibility within their schedule during the regular school year. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Mrs. Cassie Lockwood, who will give you more testing information.
All right, so, did we turn it? Yes, I did it. Technology is not always my friend. So before I start going over this data, the data for this past school year, this past summer school year, is not complete yet. Our summer testing window is still open. So the kids that were not able to make it within our short realm that we had just because our building was shut down, so we were using NREP, they still had those students that haven't tested yet still have the opportunity to test at their home schools at the beginning of this school year. So hopefully these numbers all go up. Only 37 students last summer needed to test. This summer, 60 of those students that were enrolled needed to test. We had a 30% pass rate, or 37% of students attempted this year, and of those 22 students that did test, 18% of them scored an expedited retake, and 46% of them did pass. Again, we're hoping that more students will still test when they go back and they return to their home schools. That's it. Yep.
Yep. So one of the things that I want to add there is, in terms of perspective, is we are incredibly proud of this pass rate. 46% pass rate for 100% of the kids had failed during the year. So with 3 weeks remediation, 46% of those kids passed. So close to 50% of those kids that had failed were able to save their class and pass an SOL in 3 weeks. Incredibly proud of the staff, the leaders, and the teachers that helped bring this together to make that happen. Okay. And then the last slide that I want to share is these are just some certain demographics that we pulled pass rates for the class. And then I know there were some questions that I heard about SOL pass rates for the same demographics. We can get those for you and pull those for you. But this is the pass rates for those in the class. Any questions that I can answer?
I have 2 questions. On that last slide, the attempted number, it was down. Just out of curiosity, why are we having so few students attempt?
So this summer, Dow J. Howard we were shut down. The building itself was shut down to renovations and expansions and all the fun stuff. So we were able to luckily use NREP's building for a short period of time. There were 5 days that were allowed for student testing. They were all scheduled on a day, but then there were also dates made for makeups available. And those are the students that we could get in to test.
But
again,
I know you guys can't just grab them by the hand and drag them in, but
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The other
just
difficulty that we have with summer school is you have this 3-week window and you want to get as much instruction as you can. And then you ultimately end up testing after that. They actually are physically there. So they're having to come back in a lot of times for these tests. And so that's another barrier that we've noticed as we grow this program, develop this program, something that we may need to address in the future.
Okay. Understand. And then my second question is Mr. Barber's slides. Go back to, right here. So I think it tripled, right? Like you said.
Yes, sir.
We're staying about even, showing a better trend on the pass-fail rate. What are some of the reasons? I understand people not getting the material or whatever and maybe needing a little bit more time with the material to pass, but are we having students not show up? Is that part of it? What are some reasons that you're seeing that we're not passing those?
Well, I would say when it comes to some students not coming, that is a reality. We do have a feature within the program for those students that do not come for the first week. If they make no effort, they are dropped from our program, which saves dollars in terms of transportation, buses going out, things along those lines. But also with the program, I would say that though we are seeing a little bit of improvement, we are also dealing with students that did have an F. Students are coming to class. It is half day, 8 to 12, as opposed to a 7 to 3 o'clock window, and it is very condensed, if you will. Yes, the students did fail the class the first time. They are in a recovery. So I would say that teachers are working very closely with the students. They're doing any intervention that they can during that time frame, and that we just need to keep perfecting our craft. And also, each group is a little bit different from year to year. One teacher one year may have a class of 9, and then the next year it may be a class of 17. And that doesn't mean that the instruction is any less quality. It is just a different number of students with different reasons as to why they failed, and now you have to alter your education to meet the needs of all of those students within that time.
And you know, these numbers, to even keep it, I mean, it's like I said, it's trending in the right directions, as getting better for the pass fail rate too. I know it's pretty close in the percentages, but with tripling the workload essentially, and being able to stay right there with it, I think that's amazing. Just out of curiosity, did you plan, or did you think that you guys would have a triple? Were you guys able to plan for that with staff and accommodations and everything else?
To be
or
perfectly
was it
honest,
a scramble at the end?
No, it wasn't that it was a scramble. It was that when we opened up registration, we had a much larger window.
Okay.
And when I announced to all 3 high schools registration was open, oh boy, did they start registering those students. So it was wonderful, at least on my end, to see all of these numbers, because every student that's being registered shows a student in Frederick County Public Schools that is being helped, that's going to have the opportunity to pass a class. And fortunately, we were able to have the space at Dow J. Howard this summer. I mean, yes, it was close quarters, but there was still space for those students. So it definitely worked out.
And I'm tickled pink with all this. What else? Well, I guess Black, you're the pink today. But what support do you need from us as a board in order to keep this going and maybe expand it?
All right. One thing I would say is that though we did have 158, there were 19 students that we unfortunately did have to turn away that were wait listed.
Okay.
Because we did not have we didn't have enough funding to employ another teacher. That being said, I would just ask that if this board and Frederick County Public Schools would agree to continually budget, to have an open conversation, to meet with Mr. Thompson, Dr. Myers, and others from the instructional department to see what those funds would be for this program to continue. I would believe that that would be an appropriate and a wonderful place to start, so that way when we unroll the program within the later part of this year, we are ensuring that we're offering a program that is extremely robust and allows for students at our high schools to truly take a class that will help them succeed and pass.
I would love for them to pass the first time. We'd
Yeah.
budget 0 for it.
That would be wonderful, yes, sir.
That's probably not the reality, so I'll take that into consideration when we go through our budget cycles. I'll remember this conversation, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
To be fair, I think but I think it was more of a space issue that we had at Dow J and then it was a funding issue this particular year. So just to share that into perspective.
He is correct. I was wrong. Sorry about that.
Would it maybe help to maybe go to one of the other schools?
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that we're looking to improve upon. Mr. Atkins, I've already had conversations with our high school principals, and not only were the students that signed up that we had to send away, there were other students that wanted to sign up but knew there wasn't any space. So it is impacting not only class size for the upcoming year, but it's also impacting the number of students that are in each class as well. So we definitely have some work to do in that area, and as we're seeing here with these numbers, they don't lie that these students do require a little additional support, and they're making it. So we have to provide them with that opportunity. So yes, there is opportunity. This has nothing to do with Mr. Thompson. He's doing a fantastic job, but there's definitely room for adding more students, and it is something that we're looking at doing for next school year. So the funding piece is not a significant issue. It's more of the space.
Yeah, it's just a shame that some of the students that end up getting dropped that first week, they're eating up a space for a student that could have taking advantage of this situation. So, yeah, trying to just drag them in and get in there to pass these classes. So, all right, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Any other question? Whoa, Nelly. Any other questions or comments?
9.
I held them up here a long time.
That's okay. I do have a question. Do you, for this program, have TAs in the classroom with them, or is it just the primary teacher?
So we have a small number of TAs to be able to support all of the class. I think this year we had 2.
We had 2.
2. So
And is that a budget constraint, or is that a finding the person constraint?
I would say it was just more of how we built the program. It wasn't necessarily a funding. Could we ask for more instructional assistants or TAs?
Yeah,
Yes.
IAs, TAs.
But trying to balance the need versus just having somebody to have somebody.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
More staff is always better, but, you also,
You have to pay for them.
Yes.
Yes.
But also, Mr. Chair, if I may, these are also smaller class sizes too, correct?
Yes, no class exceeded the number of 18, and the smallest class size, to my recollection, would have been 8 students, and that would have been United States history.
It's a good subject to have only 8 students in.
You could go teach that for free.
Maybe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's back to you, Ms. Knight.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for presenting. Thank you, teachers, leaders, and coordinators, and Dr. Myers. At this time, we are excited to showcase that we have an awareness that there is a correlation between student achievement, which we've heard loud and clear at the board today, and student well-being. And so Mrs. Rittenauer is going to share with us our plans for
I'm
student
sorry,
achievement.
before we continue, those of you that are here that presented, if you would like to take this opportunity to leave, I do have respect for your time. You may get up and leave now, and that way, once you've done so, we can continue the meeting.
Guys.
Is anybody left behind me? They all leave.
A few.
Thanks. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Mr. Bell, we enjoyed presenting to you earlier, and Dr. Hummer, and thank you, Mr. Sturdivant and Mr. Atkins, for being here. A little bit about what we're going to cover today is just what are our internal supports that we have here in Frederick County? What do those look like for our students to promote their well-being? What are our external partnerships and resources that we have available? And what are our next steps and things that we'd like to start considering to help move us forward? So first, this looks very familiar, hopefully, to you, a tiered systems of support that we see in Virginia that we model around academics, discipline, and also for well-being for students. We look at Tier 1. Tier 1 is what we provide for all students in all settings and what that might look like, and making sure that we have different opportunities for those students in that Tier 1 setting. In our Tier 2 setting, that targets a smaller group of students that may need some additional supports under well-being and what that might look like as far as creating some safety plans, some of our community referrals that we work with, our partnerships. And then lastly, our Tier 3, which is our smallest percentage of students that may need a more intensive intervention. And that could include some things with our community referrals that we partner with. Could be through DJJ, Division of Juvenile Justice. It could be through our court service units, and different opportunities that a small group of students might have access to under their well-being support. So here would be an example, kind of a tiered highlight, kind of breaking down what we just talked about. So in Tier 1, something that would be available for all students under our PBIS, which is our Positive Behavior Intervention Support. There we would have an example of evidence-based framework for all students. We would be teaching what our school expectations are, our classroom expectations. You probably have been in a number of our schools that they have up posters that say like, be ready, be responsible. And those things are helping our students learn how to be good citizens and what it looks like in a school setting. And then our Tier 2 group is a smaller group of interventions under instruction and focusing on a targeted skill. And what does that support look like aligned with school-wide expectations? And it can be implemented by our school and our faculties within the building. And it's also very flexible. Within all of these tiers, they're flexible. We could have student at different places at different times and moving between tier 1, 2, and 3. And then lastly, our tier 3 is our individualized student support. And in that, it's our access to certain school resources and community resources that provide more intensive support to our students. So while we're very proud of a lot of things that we have in place in Frederick County that help meet our students' needs, we do also look at some of our school quality data survey that we just got back from our school climate. And in that, it suggests that we need to look at some additional supports to best help our students in our buildings. So our current tools we have in place that we kind of reviewed over, and they're pretty extensive, but we really would like to consider moving forward that third bullet there as an additional screener, trying to be more proactive on what kind of needs do our students identify that would help them best, and how can we help support that in our schools. So, questions for me?
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I think we're going back to. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to policy with Ms. Jordan. We can, yes, of course. See if we can get your policies up on the screen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members, Dr. Hummer. First, let me start by saying I do apologize for being late. I had to leave campus, and while I planned to be back here on time, I did not plan that our parking lot would be as full as it was.
It happened to me too.
I do apologize for the poor planning there, but thank you for your flexibility.
We'll just have to talk about it outside.
That's fine. Okay, let's go back to our new policies. Bear with me for one moment.
The microphone isn't coming through very well.
I can't hear a thing.
Okay, is that better?
No.
No.
Maybe if you come up front, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Now you got to stand in the front of the class.
You're really punishing me for being late.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Okay. So there are a couple of new policies that we have proposed that are before you for your consideration this evening. The first one, if I can get back to the slide, is proposed policy 333P. It is regarding our English learners. Here we are. So FCPS has had a continual growth in our English language learner student population. That growth, I do not think is anywhere close to stopping. And so because of that, it does make sense and is a very good idea to have a policy that specifically addresses our English language learners. One, it will put not only their parents and the students themselves, but the community as a whole. It just provides some information about what programs we provide. It goes over general information, the identification and placement of our English language learners, as well as the LIEP services, which is our language instructional education program. And so for that reason, this is being presented to you and is being recommended for adoption by the school board. I did work closely with Ms. Headley. She was a fantastic support in getting this to where it matches what is happening here at Frederick County. Any questions from the board?
On 333P, that's a lot of threes. What specific accommodations, assessments, and notifications, what does that look like?
I would have to refer to Ms. Headley to answer that for you.
All right.
And all of this is spelled out in board docs, isn't it?
Yes, the proposed policy is posted to board docs.
Okay, thank you.
And the policy really it's a marriage of federal policy and then state policy that's come to clarify new things. So in terms of assessments, all language learners are required to take a test once a year so that we can measure their growth. And the test is scaffolded, so you're not just measuring their growth in science, but is their language growing? So there are federal requirements for assessments. They do receive accommodations that are optional, but things like using an audio test on a math assignment so that you can spend less time working on your decoding and really address your math skills. So there is a list from the state of Virginia that our teachers have, and they meet with their staff, and we individualize it for students, very similar to special education. Notifications involves annual letters that go out to families that their students are in a language program, that they do not have to receive services, but they do have to be annually assessed, and it just lets them know what Frederick County Public Schools is providing for their students.
So with the annual assessment, say I have a kindergartner going in this year,
Yes.
would the annual test go all the way through graduation of high school?
If the student never meets language proficiency, then yes, absolutely. So we are highly motivated to get them to language proficiency so that we aren't spending those resources, and we get to monitor that progress.
And I guess required notifications, I guess that goes into our rapid response communication system where we do it in English and Spanish. I don't know. if
We
do it
use
in any
a separate
others.
service. So Title III, a lot of our funding comes from Title III, and we have a database that we use that will automatically translate these letters. So we print them out, we send them, we actually mail them to families to make sure. We used to stick them in kids' backpacks, but that can be questionable. So we get them in the mail, and we make sure that we are meeting all of our requirements to get families notification of what their students are receiving at school.
Okay.
And I also asked the question that if they don't necessarily speak Spanish, do we have the ability to send it in Mandarin or?
Absolutely.
And the
With our
answer is yes.
Elevation
You have a
platform.
we have a service that provides that, whether it's Tagalog or what have you.
I think it has 32 languages, so
Oh, okay,
yeah,
good.
we're in good shape.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So the next proposed policy we have for you tonight is 334P. This past session of the General Assembly, they passed several bills that increase the number of topics that have to be discussed and taught in health and physical education. This is on top of a lot of other topics that had already been enacted by the General Assembly. Because of that, since there's so much that is now required by Virginia Code to be taught in this class, we thought it would be best practice to, again, put this in a policy for the community to see so they can have a full understanding of what is being offered in those courses. Any questions?
Any questions or comments about 334P?
In an interest for transparency, 334P, the topics to be covered within health and physical education curriculum, what would those be? What topics?
So for example, there was a new one that came out from the General Assembly about hazing. There was a big push for that with all of the situations that were happening at the university level. So now we have to cover those topics within health and PE. Now, of course, in any health and PE class, you can opt out of those topics. But that is something that we're required to now include in those policies. And the whole policy as it's written out is on Board Doc, so the community can definitely take a look at that policy to see exactly what is in there for full transparency. So of course, if there's any questions or if the board has any questions, let us know. We're more than happy to answer those. But that is the biggest new addition, Mr. Atkins. That's a great question. That's the biggest addition to that.
Thank you, Dr. Hummer. Any other comments or questions for 334P? All right, let's move to 335P.
Back in 2022, the General Assembly enacted the Virginia Literacy Plan Act.
Can you flip the slide?
Oh, yes, I can. Thank you. However, the act does not come into effect until the 2024-25 school year. Since it is being implemented across the Commonwealth, including FCPS, it is recommended that we adopt a policy that specifically addresses our literacy plan. Part of that act is it requires all school divisions to have their own literacy plan, and currently our policy manual does not address it. The only place it's mentioned is in 620P, 333P, which is our strategic plan. It has language that essentially says effective 2024-2025, we will have a literacy plan. Now that it is here, the recommendation is to adopt 335P that addresses our specific literacy plan, but then also amend 620P and remove that language from the strategic plan now that we have the new policy.
That way it's not verbatim, or,
No, the 335P
Yeah.
is much more extensive and provides a lot more information than what we currently have.
Correct. And we'll be making two motions for that particular amendment.
Correct. So there will
and
be
proposal.
there's a request for 4 motions from the board
Correct.
on each new policy and the one amendment.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions, concerns, comments? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Hummer, do you have anything else for us?
No, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned, the 3 items were for information for you all with the 2 summer programs as well as the student well-being, and that these 4 policies, we're recommending that you move to the full board for approval.
So at this point in time, then we need to have a motion to adopt the policy, or to move, sorry, policy 33P to the full board. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I get to do this. Motion passes. The second proposal is to move the new policy 334P, health and physical education, to the full board. Do I have a motion to move policy 334P, health and physical education, to the full board?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? It's been properly seconded, and therefore, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes, goes to the full board. And the third policy, 335P, on the literacy plan. Do I need to first amend 620P or no? Okay. So there is
There's nothing yet.
there's nothing yet. There's a new policy 335P for the literacy plan to be taken to the full board. Do I have a motion to take this new policy 335P of the literacy plan to the full board?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been properly firsted and seconded? That's right. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, the last is to amend Policy 620, Community Relations Strategic Planning, removing the language of our literacy plan. Is that correct? To be taken to the full board? Did I say that all correctly? Thank you.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Gentlemen of the board, of the instruction committee, we have no more business in front of us, so
I move we adjourn.
there we go. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, take your time.
Meeting is adjourned.
Whatever.